before we go any further, if you feel this message, if you understand the value of psychological strength, if you are building yourself in silence, subscribe. Like this episode. Not for numbers, but because this space is for individuals who are done being controlled by noise. Now breathe, slowly, and listen carefully. There is something happening in every room you enter. Something subtle. Something invisible. Something almost no one is aware of. A silent hierarchy. Not based on money. Not based on followers. Not even based on intelligence. It is based on control. Control of emotion. Control of reaction. Control of presence. And once you understand this, you will never move the same way again. Most people spend their lives reacting. Reacting to opinions. Reacting to criticism. Reacting to praise. Reacting to rejection. They believe they are choosing their behavior. But they are not. They are responding to stimuli. Someone raises their voice, they tense up. Someone questions their value, they defend. Someone ignores them, they chase attention. And in every one of those moments, control shifts away from them. Reaction is invisible submission. The person who can trigger you, can steer you. The person who can predict your emotional response, can manipulate your decisions. Think about that. How many of your choices are truly yours? How many were influenced by fear? Fear of being judged. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of not being enough. The world is loud. Not because loudness equals strength, but because loudness hides insecurity. The loudest voice in the room is often the most fragile. Real power does not need to announce itself. It does not need to interrupt. It does not need to prove. It observes. And observation creates leverage. When you speak, you reveal. When you react, you expose. When you rush, you signal need. But when you pause, when you stay composed, when you let silence stretch just a little longer than expected, you create pressure. And pressure reveals truth. Silence is not weakness. Silence is a mirror. Most people are uncomfortable with silence. It forces them to confront themselves. In conversation, when you do not rush to fill the space, the other person will. They will explain more, defend more, reveal more. The one who talks more usually gives away more power. Watch powerful individuals carefully. They move differently. They do not rush. They do not fidget. They do not chase attention with exaggerated gestures. Their movements are economical, measured, intentional. Because speed often signals anxiety. And anxiety signals internal instability. Slowness communicates certainty. When you move slowly, you communicate that you are not pressured, that you are not desperate, that you have time. And having time is a form of dominance. Desperation destroys leverage. The one who needs less controls more. This applies everywhere. In relationships, in business, in negotiations, in social dynamics. If you need approval, you will shape-shift to receive it. If you need recognition, you will perform for it. If you fear rejection, you will tolerate disrespect to avoid it. And in doing so, you give away authority over your own identity. Power begins where emotional dependency ends. Imagine entering a room without the need to impress anyone, without the need to be liked, without the need to be validated. Just present, grounded, observant. The energy changes. People sense when someone is not seeking something. Because most interactions are transactions. Attention for approval. Praise for validation. Agreement for acceptance. When you remove your need from the equation, you become unpredictable. And unpredictability commands respect. This is where mystery becomes an advantage. In a world where everyone shares everything, selective silence becomes rare. And rarity creates value. You do not need to reveal your strategy. You do not need to announce your goals. You do not need to explain your vision to those who cannot see it. The more accessible you are emotionally, the easier you are to read. The easier you are to read, the easier you are to influence. Information is leverage. The less people know about your internal world, the harder it is to destabilize you. But there is a deeper layer. A layer most people avoid. Detachment. Not coldness. Not indifference. Detachment. The ability to pursue something without being controlled by the outcome. If someone can threaten what you desperately want, they control you. If someone can withhold the validation you crave, they influence you. If someone can remove the attention you depend on, they destabilize you. But when you want without needing, everything shifts. When you can walk away from a negotiation, your posture changes. When you can accept rejection without collapse, your confidence becomes quiet and stable. When you do not fear losing people who misunderstand you, you stop performing. And when you stop performing, you start becoming real. Power is not domination over others. It is mastery over self. It is the ability to feel anger without being consumed by it, to feel fear without obeying it, to feel desire without being enslaved by it. Your nervous system is designed for survival. But survival reactions are not always aligned with strategic control. Someone insults you, your body heats up. Someone challenges you, your muscles tighten. Someone ignores you, your chest contracts. That is biology. Power is not the absence of reaction. It is the discipline to choose your response. Between stimulus and action, there is a space. In that space lies your authority. Most people collapse that space. They react instantly. Powerful individuals expand it. They breathe. They assess. They choose. That choice is sovereignty. And sovereignty is rare. Because most people are conditioned to be reactive. Social media rewards instant opinions. Debates reward loud dominance. Environments reward visible performance. But long-term influence rewards composure. The individual who cannot be emotionally hijacked becomes difficult to manipulate. The individual who does not over-explain becomes difficult to challenge. The individual who does not seek constant validation becomes psychologically independent. And psychological independence is intimidating. Not because it is aggressive, but because it cannot be controlled. You do not need to intimidate others. You need to stabilize yourself. When you stabilize yourself, others feel it. Your eye contact becomes steady. Your speech becomes measured. Your silence becomes heavy. Your presence becomes felt before your words are heard. Rooms respond to nervous systems. If you are internally chaotic, you radiate instability. If you are internally grounded, you radiate calm authority. And authority does not beg for attention. It does not chase. It does not argue unnecessarily. It selects its battles carefully. It speaks when necessary. And when it speaks, it is heard. They don't want you to understand this. Because someone who cannot be provoked easily cannot be controlled easily. Someone who does not depend on applause cannot be silenced by criticism. Someone who moves strategically instead of emotionally becomes unpredictable. And unpredictability in a controlled mind is powerful. This is not about becoming cold. It is about becoming centered. It is not about suppressing emotion. It is about mastering it. It is not about dominating people. It is about refusing to be dominated by your own impulses. The world will continue to be loud. People will continue to perform. Opinions will continue to fly. But you can choose stillness. You can choose control. You can choose to observe before reacting. And in doing so, you step into a different level of power. Not visible. Not flashy. Not noisy. But real. And once you feel it, once you train it, once you embody it, you will never need to prove yourself again. Because true power does not need to be seen to exist. It only needs to be mastered. And now, you are aware. Most people believe presence is about appearance. Clothes, voice tone, posture tricks, confidence hacks. But presence is not performance. Presence is nervous system regulation. When you enter a room, people do not respond to your words first. They respond to your state. Your body speaks before you do. Micromovements, breathing rhythm, eye stability, muscle tension. All of it communicates something. If your internal state is restless, your environment feels it. If your internal state is grounded, your environment adjusts to it. This is why some individuals walk into a room and conversations subtly shift. Not because they demanded attention, but because they carry contained energy. Contained energy is powerful. Scattered energy is weak. Think about electricity. When it is uncontrolled, it sparks randomly. When it is channeled, it powers cities. Your emotional energy works the same way. Most people leak energy through constant talking, through unnecessary explaining, through impulsive reacting, through seeking approval. But controlled individuals conserve energy. They speak with intention. They move with intention. They respond with intention. And intention creates weight. Weight creates gravity. Gravity pulls attention naturally. You don't chase it. Now let's talk about strategic invisibility. This is where power becomes almost paradoxical. Because sometimes the strongest move is not to be seen building. There is strength in operating below the radar. When you announce every plan, you invite opinions. When you reveal every ambition, you invite resistance. When you expose every step, you invite judgment. And judgment drains focus. Strategic invisibility is not hiding out of fear. It is choosing silence for efficiency. When people underestimate you, they relax. When they relax, they stop defending. When they stop defending, you move freely. Underestimation is an advantage. Ego wants recognition immediately. Power prefers results eventually. There is a difference. One is emotional gratification. The other is strategic patience. Most individuals sabotage themselves because they want applause before accomplishment. But applause is temporary. Positioning is permanent. If you are building something, build quietly. If you are transforming, transform privately. Let the shift surprise people. Surprise creates impact. Impact creates authority. Now consider unpredictability. Predictable people are safe. Safe people are manageable. If someone knows exactly how you will react, they can design situations around your reactions. If they know you always defend yourself, they can bait you. If they know you always seek peace, they can pressure you. If they know you cannot tolerate silence, they can control negotiations. But when your responses are measured and selective, you become harder to map. And what cannot be mapped cannot be easily manipulated. This does not mean being chaotic. It means being internally stable while externally controlled. Sometimes you respond. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you engage. Sometimes you observe. The decision is conscious, not emotional. That is the difference. Power is conscious behavior. Weakness is impulsive behavior. Let's go even deeper. Hierarchy. Every social environment has one. Unspoken. Invisible. But always present. Hierarchy is not only about titles. It is about emotional stability. In moments of stress, who collapses first? In moments of conflict, who escalates? In moments of uncertainty, who stays grounded? The one who remains emotionally regulated naturally rises. Because humans instinctively follow stability. When a situation becomes tense, people scan for calm faces. They search for steady voices. They look for someone who appears unshaken. If you can be that person consistently, you elevate without demanding authority. Authority that is demanded is fragile. Authority that is embodied is durable. And embodiment takes discipline. Daily discipline. Controlling small reactions. Resisting the urge to interrupt. Resisting the urge to defend instantly. Resisting the urge to fill silence. Every time you resist an impulse, you strengthen internal authority. And internal authority eventually becomes external influence. Now let's examine fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of failure. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear makes people loud. It pushes them to explain excessively, to justify constantly, to seek reassurance. But when you make peace with rejection, you stop performing. When you accept that not everyone will understand you, you stop over-communicating. When you accept that loss is possible, you negotiate differently. Peace with loss creates freedom. And freedom creates boldness. The person who is not afraid to lose cannot be threatened easily. Threats lose power when loss loses fear. That is psychological leverage. There is another layer. Control of tempo. Most conversations operate at a certain speed. Fast exchanges. Quick reactions. Immediate responses. But when you intentionally slow the tempo, you change the dynamic. Pause before answering. Let silence breathe. Maintain eye contact half a second longer than normal. Speak slightly slower than expected. These micro-adjustments create subtle dominance. Not aggressive dominance. Composed dominance. It signals one thing. I'm not rushed. And someone who is not rushed is not desperate. Desperation is sensed instantly. Even if unspoken. Even if hidden behind confidence. True composure cannot be faked long-term. It must be built. Through solitude. Through self-reflection. Through mastering your own internal dialogue. Because here is the truth most avoid. If you cannot sit alone in silence comfortably, you will struggle to hold silence around others. External composure begins with internal peace. And internal peace begins with self-control. Observe powerful negotiators. They do not rush to fill offers. They do not reveal their excitement. They do not show anxiety when stakes are high. Their faces remain neutral. Their breathing steady. They let others reveal urgency. Because urgency reveals need. And the one who needs less wins more often. Detach from immediate emotional highs. Detach from instant gratification. Detach from the need to prove something today. Build something sustainable instead. Because temporary dominance is ego-driven. Sustained influence is discipline-driven. Now imagine the version of you who has mastered this. You walk into environments calmly. You speak when necessary. You observe patterns quickly. You react intentionally. You are not easily provoked. You are not easily flattered. You are not easily intimidated. Praise does not inflate you. Criticism does not destabilize you. That balance is rare. And rarity commands respect. People will not always understand you. They may call you distant. They may call you reserved. They may misinterpret your silence. Let them. Misinterpretation is lighter than manipulation. Not everyone needs access to your internal world. Not everyone deserves emotional transparency. Selective openness protects mental clarity. And mental clarity protects power. They don't want you to understand this. Because when you regulate yourself, you exit the cycle of reaction. When you exit the cycle of reaction, you become difficult to steer. When you become difficult to steer, you become independent. And independence disrupts control systems. But remember something important. This is not about isolation. It is about sovereignty. You can still connect deeply, still love fully, still engage passionately. But you do so from stability, not from need, from strength, not from fear, from choice, not from compulsion. And that shift is everything. Next we go even deeper, into the neurological side. How your brain encodes dominance. How micro-expressions shape perception. How to train your nervous system daily to remain unshaken under pressure. Because power is not a mindset alone. It is a trained biological state. And once trained, it becomes automatic. Calm becomes default. Silence becomes natural. Presence becomes undeniable. And you no longer try to be powerful. You simply are. Now we move beneath behavior, beneath posture, beneath tone. We move into biology. Because power is not just psychological. It is neurological. It is chemical. It is trained into the nervous system. And once it becomes biological, it becomes automatic. Your brain has one primary job: survival. It scans constantly. Who is threat? Who is stable? Who is dominant? Who is uncertain? This scanning happens in milliseconds. Before logic. Before language. Before conscious thought. And the part of the brain responsible for this rapid evaluation is ancient. It does not care about your social media status. It does not care about your vocabulary. It cares about signals, microsignals, breathing rhythm, eye movement, muscle tension, voice stability. When someone's breathing is shallow and fast, the brain detects stress. When someone's eyes dart constantly, the brain detects anxiety. When someone speaks too quickly, the brain detects urgency. And urgency often implies need. Now understand something critical. The human brain instinctively respects stability. Not loudness. Not aggression. Stability. If your nervous system is calm under pressure, others feel safer around you. And humans gravitate towards safety. Even in dominance hierarchies. Especially in dominance hierarchies. The calm individual in chaos naturally becomes the anchor. And anchors are followed. Let's talk about micro-expressions. Tiny facial movements. Often unconscious. They last fractions of a second. A tightened jaw. A raised eyebrow. A quick lip press. These signals reveal internal state. You can say confident words. But if your micro-expressions leak fear, people feel it. This is why internal control matters more than performance. You cannot fake long-term composure. Because your nervous system betrays you. So the goal is not acting powerful. It is becoming regulated. Regulation is trained. Through discomfort. Through exposure. Through voluntary stress. If you avoid stress, you remain fragile. If you face controlled stress repeatedly, your nervous system adapts. Cold showers. Hard workouts. Difficult conversations. Public speaking. Silence and uncomfortable moments. Every time you stay composed under mild stress, you teach your brain something new. You teach it, I can handle pressure. And the more evidence your brain collects, the calmer it becomes automatically. Confidence is not positive thinking. It is accumulated proof. Proof that you can endure. Proof that you can recover. Proof that you can remain steady. Now let's go into voice. Voice reveals hierarchy instantly. A shaky tone signals doubt. Rapid speech signals anxiety. Over-explaining signals insecurity. A controlled voice signals authority. Slow pace. Strategic pauses. Lower tonal variation. Clear articulation. But again, this cannot be forced. If you try to artificially slow your speech while internally panicking, your body will contradict you. The key is internal breathing control. Breathing regulates state. Deep, slow breathing activates calm responses. Fast, shallow breathing activates alert responses. Before entering important conversations, control your breathing. 4 seconds in. 4 seconds hold. 4 seconds out. Repeat. You are not calming yourself emotionally. You are adjusting your biology. And biology shapes perception. People do not respond to your intention. They respond to your state. Eye contact. Another primal signal. Too little eye contact signals submission. Too much forced eye contact signals aggression or insecurity. Balanced, steady eye contact signals composure. Hold eye contact slightly longer than comfortable. Then release naturally. No tension. No challenge. Just stability. Eyes communicate more than words. If your eyes are restless, your authority weakens. If your gaze is grounded, your presence strengthens. But remember, grounded does not mean staring. It means relaxed focus. Relaxed focus tells the brain, I am not threatened. And when you are not threatened, others feel your certainty. Now we enter something deeper. Identity. Most people attempt to act powerful in moments. But power is not situational. It is identity-based. If you see yourself as someone who is easily shaken, you will be. If you see yourself as someone who needs approval, you will seek it. Your behavior always aligns with your self-concept. So real transformation begins internally. Ask yourself, who am I under pressure? Do I collapse? Do I over-explain? Do I become defensive? Or do I observe? Do I breathe? Do I choose? The identity of a calm individual must be rehearsed. Visualize yourself handling tension with control. Imagine staying composed during confrontation. Mentally practice silence. Your brain does not fully distinguish between vivid imagination and experience. Visualization builds familiarity. Familiarity reduces fear. Reduced fear increases stability. This is neurological conditioning. Let's talk about unpredictability again, but deeper. When your nervous system is stable, your reactions are not automatic. You choose based on context. Sometimes you respond strongly. Sometimes you remain silent. Sometimes you disengage completely. Because you are not emotionally hijacked. You are evaluating strategically. This makes you difficult to manipulate. Manipulation depends on predictability. Emotional predictability. Trigger predictability. Need predictability. When none of those are easily accessible, control becomes difficult. And difficulty creates respect. Now understand something crucial. Power is not about suppressing emotion. Suppression creates internal pressure. Pressure leaks eventually. Power is about processing emotion quickly without broadcasting it impulsively. Feel anger, but do not obey it. Feel fear, but do not retreat automatically. Feel desire, but do not become desperate. You are allowed to feel everything. You are not required to act on everything. That separation is mastery. Most people are fused with their emotions. They are anger. They are fear. They are insecurity. You must become the observer of those states. When you observe, you create distance. Distance creates choice. Choice creates authority. Authority over self is the highest form of power. There is something else. Energy leakage through comparison. Comparison destabilizes internal grounding. If your confidence depends on being superior, you will constantly scan for threats. If someone appears more successful, you feel diminished. If someone receives more praise, you feel inferior. That instability radiates outward. Secure individuals do not compare constantly. They measure against their own standard. Internal metrics, not external applause. When your validation is internal, external fluctuation does not shake you. This steadiness is sensed. And sensed steadiness creates influence. Now imagine yourself 6 months from now. You have trained your nervous system daily. You have practiced silence. You have reduced impulsive reactions. You have controlled your breathing in conflict. You have embraced rejection without collapse. You have detached from outcomes without losing ambition. Your presence shifts. You do not argue unnecessarily. You do not chase validation. You do not overshare strategy. People notice, but they cannot fully explain why. They just feel it. That feeling is regulated power. It is subtle. It is quiet. But it is undeniable. They don't want you to understand this. Because when you master your biology, you stop being easy to provoke. When you master your identity, you stop being easy to intimidate. When you master your emotions, you stop being easy to manipulate. And a person who cannot be manipulated easily cannot be controlled easily. That is why this knowledge is rarely emphasized. Because emotional discipline creates independence. And independence disrupts systems built on reaction. But you are not here to remain reactive. You are here to build something deeper. Unshakable composure. Strategic silence. Biological calm under pressure. Identity-based authority. And this is still only the foundation. Next, we go into applied dominance. Real-world scenarios. Confrontation. Negotiation. Relationships. Leadership. And how to implement everything you've heard without becoming cold or disconnected. Now we bring this into the real world. Because theory without application is useless. Power is not proven in comfort. It is revealed in friction. So let's step into friction. Imagine confrontation. Someone challenges you publicly. Their tone sharp. Their intention clear. They want a reaction. Most people respond instantly. They interrupt. They defend. They escalate. And the moment they escalate, they lose structure. Their breathing shifts. Their tone rises. Their words become less precise. And control leaves them. Now imagine something different. You pause. Not dramatically, not theatrically, just long enough. You look at them. Calm. Breathing steady. No rush to defend. No rush to attack. Just stillness. That stillness does something unexpected. It destabilizes aggression. Because aggression feeds on reaction. Without reaction, it loses momentum. Then you respond. Slowly. Measured. Minimal words. Direct. When you speak less, each word carries weight. When you speak calmly, your authority increases. The room feels the difference. You did not dominate by force. You dominated by regulation. Now negotiation. This is where most people give away power unconsciously. They reveal excitement too quickly. They show urgency. They talk themselves into concessions. But urgency is weakness. Excitement is information. Information is leverage, and you just gave it away. When negotiating, detach from outcome. Not from ambition. From attachment. If you are afraid to lose the deal, you will accept less. If you are comfortable walking away, your posture changes. Your tone changes. Your standards rise. Silence becomes your ally. After presenting your offer, say nothing. Let the discomfort sit with them. The first person who breaks silence usually reveals need. And the one who reveals need loses leverage. This is not manipulation. It is awareness. Most people rush to relieve tension. Powerful individuals tolerate it. Now relationships. Emotional environments are subtle power fields. If you constantly seek reassurance, you shift the balance. If you constantly explain yourself to avoid misunderstanding, you lose grounding. If you fear abandonment, you accept behavior beneath your standard. Emotional stability creates attraction. Not detachment from care. Detachment from desperation. When you can love without clinging, respect increases. When you can express without begging to be understood, your presence strengthens. When you can walk away from disrespect calmly, your value rises. Power in relationships is not control. It is self-respect maintained consistently. The one who can leave peacefully holds quiet authority. Because peace with loss is strength. Now leadership. Whether formal or informal, leadership emerges during uncertainty. When tension rises, who looks for guidance? They scan the room, searching for steadiness. If you panic, you disappear in hierarchy. If you blame, you weaken trust. If you react emotionally, you reduce confidence. But if you remain composed, if you slow the pace, if you speak clearly and concisely, people lean toward you. Leadership is less about commanding and more about stabilizing. When others feel safe in your presence, they align with you. Stability builds loyalty. Volatile dominance builds fear. Fear is temporary. Stability is sustainable. Now let's address something critical. Restraint. The ability to say less than you know. The ability to show less than you feel. The ability to hold back when provoked. Restraint is misunderstood as weakness. But restraint is stored force. If you react to everything, you become predictable. If you engage in every conflict, you waste energy. Selective engagement creates mystery. And mystery protects focus. You do not need to attend every argument you are invited to. You do not need to respond to every opinion. You do not need to defend every misunderstanding. Sometimes silence is the highest response. Because not every challenge deserves your energy. Energy management is power management. Where your attention goes, your power flows. Guard it. Now we address provocation. Some individuals test boundaries intentionally. They push. They mock. They attempt subtle dominance games. Your reaction determines hierarchy. If you overreact, you elevate them. If you shrink, you lower yourself. But if you acknowledge calmly without emotional spike, the dynamic stabilizes. A slow look, a brief pause, a short response. Then shift topic. You signal. I see what you're doing. It doesn't move me. When someone cannot move you, they lose interest in pushing. Because pushing is about control. Remove the reward, remove the behavior. This is psychological leverage without aggression. Now imagine long-term implementation. You wake up. You train your body. You expose yourself to controlled discomfort. You practice deliberate breathing. You observe your reactions during the day. When irritation rises, you pause. When praise comes, you remain balanced. When criticism appears, you evaluate without collapse. You begin to feel something new. Internal solidity. A quiet confidence that does not fluctuate daily. Your nervous system adapts. What once triggered you no longer does. What once intimidated you feels manageable. What once required validation no longer does. This is compounding composure. Small daily discipline creates massive long-term authority. There is something else most people overlook. Reputation. Not reputation for popularity. Reputation for stability. People know you are emotionally consistent, they trust you more. If they know you do not gossip, they confide in you. If they know you do not explode, they feel safe around you. Consistency builds power silently. Erratic behavior destroys it quickly. Your mood should not be unpredictable. Your strategy can be. Your emotional state should be steady. That steadiness becomes your signature. Now a warning. Do not confuse calm with passivity. Power is not avoidance. It is measured response. If boundaries are crossed repeatedly, address them calmly but directly. Clear words. No emotional excess. No threats. No drama. Just standards. Standards communicated without emotion are powerful. Because they are not reactive. They are principled. Principles anchor identity. Identity anchors behavior. Behavior shapes perception. Perception shapes hierarchy. And hierarchy determines influence. You are not trying to intimidate. You are not trying to dominate through force. You are building internal gravity. Gravity pulls without effort. Gravity does not chase. Gravity does not announce itself. It simply exists. And everything adjusts around it. When your internal state becomes steady, your reactions become rare. When your reactions become rare, your responses become valuable. When your responses become valuable, your words gain weight. And when your words gain weight, your influence expands. Quietly. Without noise. Without performance. Without desperation. They don't want you to understand this. Because when you master application, you exit emotional manipulation loops. You stop feeding unnecessary conflict. You stop giving free access to your reactions. You stop surrendering leverage through impulse. And you begin operating strategically. In conflict. In negotiation. In relationships. In leadership. This is not about becoming cold. It is about becoming controlled. It is not about suppressing emotion. It is about directing it. It is not about overpowering others. It is about being unshakable. And once you become unshakable, people feel it, even if they cannot explain it. And that feeling is power. Now we move into the final layer. Not tactics. Not techniques. Not posture adjustments. Identity. Because if this does not become who you are, it fades. Temporary discipline creates temporary power. Identity-based discipline creates permanent authority. Most people attempt to act powerful in moments that matter. Important meeting. Difficult conversation. Public confrontation. But under pressure you do not rise to intention. You fall to conditioning. If your conditioning is reactive, you will react. If your conditioning is defensive, you will defend. If your conditioning is approval-seeking, you will seek approval. So the question is not, how do I act powerful? The real question is, who am I becoming daily? Power is built in small, invisible repetitions. When you choose silence instead of interruption. When you choose breath instead of escalation. When you choose composure instead of ego defense. Each repetition rewires you. Neurons that fire together wire together. The more you practice controlled response, the more natural it becomes. Eventually, calm is no longer effort. It is default. Let's talk about long-term transformation. You must become comfortable being misunderstood. This is critical. If your identity depends on being understood by everyone, you will constantly explain yourself. Over-explaining reduces perceived authority. Not everyone deserves access to your reasoning. Not everyone needs your internal narrative. Powerful individuals accept selective misunderstanding. They do not panic when others misjudge them, because they are not building image. They are building substance. Substance outlasts perception. Image fluctuates. Substance compounds. Choose which one you are investing in. Now something even deeper. Ego. Ego is fragile dominance. It wants to win every argument. It wants to correct every false statement. It wants recognition immediately. But ego-driven power is unstable, because it depends on external confirmation. Real authority is quieter. It does not rush to prove intelligence. It does not need to be the center of every discussion. It does not chase the spotlight. It allows results to speak. Ego reacts. Authority evaluates. Ego escalates. Authority calibrates. Ego is loud. Authority is controlled. You must decide which one leads you. Another transformation. Detachment from emotional highs. Most people think power feels intense, but true power feels steady. It is not explosive confidence. It is grounded certainty. It does not spike with praise. It does not crash with criticism. It remains level. When someone compliments you, you accept it calmly. When someone criticizes you, you assess it calmly. No emotional whiplash. That emotional consistency builds internal trust. And when you trust yourself, others sense it. Trust in self is magnetic, because it reduces instability. And humans instinctively move towards stability. Now imagine your future interactions. You no longer rush to speak. You observe first. You evaluate tone. You notice emotional shifts in others. You recognize attempts at provocation instantly. But instead of reacting, you breathe. You decide. You respond intentionally. Sometimes you say nothing. Sometimes you redirect. Sometimes you disengage entirely. And you do so without guilt. Because you understand something now. Not every interaction deserves energy. Energy is currency. Spend it wisely. There is a final principle. Emotional economy. The ability to invest emotion strategically. If you give intense emotional reactions to minor events, you devalue your emotional currency. If everything triggers you, nothing you say feels weighted. But when you remain composed consistently, on the rare occasion you show intensity, it carries impact. Controlled emotion is powerful. Uncontrolled emotion is predictable. Predictable emotion is exploitable. Master the flow. Do not eliminate emotion. Regulate it. Direct it. Store it. Release it intentionally. That is strength. Now step back. See the full picture. Power is not aggression. It is not loudness. It is not intimidation. It is internal regulation. It is nervous system mastery. It is detachment from validation. It is comfort with silence. It is strategic invisibility. It is selective engagement. It is identity-level composure. When all of these combine, you become difficult to move emotionally. And when you are difficult to move, you become difficult to control. That is the hidden psychology of power. They don't want you to understand this, because controlled individuals are predictable individuals. And predictable individuals are easier to guide. But once you build composure, once you train your biology, once you detach from desperate approval, you step outside that pattern. You no longer feed every conflict. You no longer chase every validation. You no longer expose every strategy. You become measured. You become intentional. You become internally sovereign. And sovereignty is rare. Now the conclusion. This is not about becoming cold. It is not about emotional isolation. It is not about superiority. It is about mastery. Mastery over impulse. Mastery over fear. Mastery over ego. Mastery over need. When you master yourself, you do not need to dominate others. Your presence does the work. Your steadiness shifts environments. Your silence commands attention. Your words carry weight, and your absence is felt. You do not demand respect. You embody standards. You do not chase influence. You attract it. You do not perform power. You become it. If this resonated, if you felt the shift in awareness, subscribe, like, and return here. Because this is not surface-level motivation. This is identity reconstruction. This is nervous system elevation. This is strategic evolution. This is psychodrive. And now, you see the game differently. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it.